All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres lost last night to the Giants 2-1, all but officially eliminating them. Their magic number for elimination is down to 1. Game 2 is tonight, 6:45 first pitch. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Padres. NFL last night, Eagles beat the Bucs to improve to 3-0 on the season, one of 3 teams still undefeated, along with the Dolphins and the 49ers. And the Aztecs, they take on Air Force this Saturday, 5 p.m. kickoff. Our pregame cover starts at 3 p.m. at AleSmith Brewing, right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
Getting close to that time. Yep, that time. Quitting time. And there's only one way to handle that drive home. John Schaefer and Jim Russell.
Manny Machado is in this world where he's blaming the media for the expectations. Like, what? You were in the NLCS last year, dude. You finished second in MVP voting last year. We created this narrative. We laid these expectations in front of this team that were unrealistic. So I think, Jim, in the whole pecking order here, nobody really looks better in the mess than Bob Melvin.
He's the adult in the room.
Yes.
He's the adult in the room that this team needed after 2021 because you didn't have that. You haven't had that here since, Bob.
Now it's time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's hour 1 of Jon and Jim. We've got a loaded show for you. Scott Miller, New York Times contributor, will swing by at 5 p.m. Great giveaways again. Tickets to see Guns N' Roses, tickets to see Coldplay Thursday at Snapdragon Stadium, a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week as well. Fitting that the Open had to do with how the media has been treating these San Diego Padres. Manny Machado on Sunday saying that it was the media that put these expectations on the team.
Yeah.
Josh Hader essentially alluding to that last night as well. The media wants me to go 4 outs. Nobody else does. You're creating this narrative. It's not a story if it wasn't for you. This idea that I should be pitching in the 8th inning. You're going to hear from Bob Melvin what he said post-game in a Padres 2-1 loss. We'll read some quotes from Josh Hader last night as well. It's just another in a long series of things, Jim, that just screams and reeks of dysfunction. Josh Hader doesn't want to get used for whatever reason. Bob Melvin has to answer to it. Josh Hader has to answer to it. And you're just left with more questions than answers after another Padres loss, another 1-run loss of the Padres last night, falling to 7-23 in 1-run games.
I thought it's funny. One of the first comments in our chat here on YouTube said, "What? You want me to comment in the chat and listen to your show? Ridiculous. Asking too much." It's always something with you media guys.
It's the media.
It's the media's fault.
Right?
It's my fault.
That's what Hader was saying last night.
It's Brent's fault.
Nobody else wants them to go. The only people that want them to win the game are the media. You know what I mean?
Like, and fans.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. I know,
but not the team.
No, not the team. And what happened last night during the game, I'll be honest with you. In the 8th inning, when Kapler pinch hit, it was Michael Conforto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bases were loaded. I didn't even think 1 second of they should probably go to Josh Hader here. You know why? Because I have programmed myself to never, ever try to rely on this guy to give any more than just 3 outs in the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
I've programmed myself. Like, that's where I'm at now. Now, it doesn't matter because, it's over, so who cares? But to be honest with you, I didn't even think last night in the 8th inning, Bob should probably go to Josh here, right? With 2 outs, bases loaded, lefty at the plate, up 1-0. I didn't even think of it. And that's because of how us as media and then fans have listened to how many times we've listened to about Josh Hader and read about Josh Hader not going more than 3. Last time he went more than 3 outs in a regular season game was in 2020, I believe.
2020.
So he just doesn't do it at all. Now, he's been put in the 8th inning. I remember briefly, maybe 1 or 2 games where he, in the regular season, he came in the 8th inning, but he didn't finish the 9th. He either blew it or I don't know what the reasons were, but he's never finished a 4-out save in the regular season.
Not as a Padre.
Not as a Padre. Now, he did pitch a couple times in the postseason last year, and we all know what happened at the end there, right? I think
we did have a 4-out save last year against the Dodgers.
He did, and if we want, we can bring up the Game 5 NLCS, right? But again, I just have been programmed that you're never going to get the extra out from this guy. You're never going to get that extra, hey, put me in the game, I don't care what situation it is, type of mentality. You're just never going to get it. And so I didn't even think about it. And then we get to post game. And oh my God, the comments by Josh Hader. I'm not even upset that he didn't pitch 4 out. I don't really care because the game means nothing. I don't care. But when you hear these comments by Josh Hader, that's when I think, okay, last straw, fan base, you're done. Bye-bye. Go home. I don't want to see you again. You shouldn't pitch in a Padres uniform anymore. I mean, hell, you're not even really pitching in a Padres uniform because you've pitched what? It's 15 times in the last 2 months since the trade deadline. You have 6 saves as a on the team since the trade deadline. Like, go home. There's the door. I don't want to see you ever, ever, ever again.
All right. What makes it worse, though, is that Bob Melvin is doing his best to provide cover for his closers. So let's hear from Bob Melvin last night. And then Josh Hader's like, I don't even need the cover. Let me just be brutally honest about what I feel about this team.
Pull the pin out.
This is Bob Melvin. Interesting back and forth. Why does Josh Hader not come on lefty on lefty, 2 outs in the 8th? You're trying to win, right?
You asked Suarez for 4 outs.
Yeah.
Hader could have been that guy against the lefty there. Is that just him going 3 outs?
It's what we're doing right now. Yeah.
Why is that?
It's because the way we've handled it here.
Is there any discussion with him? Is there any thought?
We talked to him some, yeah.
That would seem to kind of run counter to the. I mean, you were saving him earlier in the season for later in the year, and here we are now, and it's obviously getting very late.
That's just the way it happened tonight.
So Melvin, he doesn't want to talk about it, but he is basically covering for. He's not saying hey, it's Josh Hader's fault. I did find it interesting that he said that's how we do it here. That to me is pointing right at the front office, not necessarily to Josh Hader. And then Josh Hader, after the game, asked by AJ Cassavell. Josh Hader asked his thinking behind not making himself available for 4 outs. He then is quoted saying, it's the situation that we were at. Asked to clarify, he said, are we in the playoff race? Apparently he said it facetiously. And then you guys want me to do everything, talking about the media. They're actually talking about it right now on MLB Network. So Josh Hader pulling no punches, doesn't want to deal with it.
No.
Bob Melvin, I thought, providing some level of cover for Josh Hader, but this is a complete and utter mess. And you want to know how something goes sideways like this? Because of situations like this. When you got individual rules in a team sport, oh, I can't go 4 outs. Oh, I got to bat second. Oh, I got to hit 5th. You are in all kinds of hot water, gray areas, and this thing's gone completely sideways. I can see how. This is one small dynamic that has popped up a million times this year, and I think is a reason why the Padres are in the spot that they're in right now.
So there was more, right? It wasn't just AJ or Cassavell, his tweet last night. This morning, Kevin posted a more in-depth article on this, and this is from Kevin's piece. Said, mostly he, Josh Hader, asserted the media was unreasonable for making his use an issue. Quote, always 4 outs, isn't it? He said, 3 in a row, always something. I mean, I'm not sure what you guys want. It's the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if this organization and franchise had any balls, they would literally tell Josh Hader just to go home. They would say, we don't want you here anymore. Go home. Go to free agency. Congratulations. You'll get $100 million from some sucker team out there that you'll, convince that you're this guy that can go an extra mile. And maybe you can, because once you get your money, then you'll actually do that, right?
Maybe.
But hey, as far as this rest of the season goes, we have 5 games left. Go home. I don't want to see you again. If you're not going to do any, pitch an extra out here or do anything, then go home. I know we've talked a lot about Manny. I've said I don't want Manny playing these, meaningless games. Go get the surgery, right? He's done a couple nice things in the last week, but overall, it's just not worth it to me. But you got Manny out there playing hurt, and you got Josh Hader saying, yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pitch. Now, I do see the other side of it, too. With Josh Hader, it's like, bro, look what happened in Milwaukee. They essentially threw me under the bus. I pitched a lot for them, and I pitched one postseason, like 3 innings one time, and I pitched a bunch of times in the 8th inning, and then they screwed me in arbitration. So I'm thinking about myself because I don't want to get hurt, and I'm going to get money at the end of the season, and we're already out of it. So why am I going to do it? So I get that from him, but as far as like, this is not just this end of the week thing. This has been a Josh Hader issue since he got here.
Well, that's the thing. They knew who they were getting when they traded for him. And by the way, there was a reason Milwaukee traded him. You don't trade a player of his caliber without having a reason to do it. Now, it didn't go over well last year in Milwaukee, if you remember. They slid. They didn't make the postseason. They've bounced back very nicely this year. Here's the only option the Padres have for the final 5 days. I just wouldn't pitch him.
Yeah.
You can't send him home. He's part of a union. But what you can do is not pitch him.
Yeah.
And you could just hide him on the roster. Last night for me, and again, I mentioned the fusion. It's like, that's going to be held against him for like forever. For me, that's a very much like, what's in it for me? Why would I put myself out there in the 8th inning for a 4-out save when we're basically eliminated? By the way, I can't compare that to Blake Snell potentially not pitching on Sunday. I think they're completely different. Sunday, the season literally is over. They'll have been mathematically eliminated, and Blake Snell is literally going to be the National League Cy Young Award winner. Why would you pitch the final day of the regular season mathematically eliminated when every team in baseball uses bullpen games and even the playoff teams are setting up the rotation? Last night, in theory, mattered. In theory, they were still mathematically alive. You can't pretend like the game has no value and say, well, what's the point of pitching? I mean, are we really even in a playoff race? I can't see how you can say that when you've won 9 of 10 games coming in. How could you say that?
Well, he did, John.
To just punt on your teammates, punt on the season, punt on your team.
You said it during the fusion. The rules on this team are completely different for everybody.
They all have their own rules. You
got Hader, who is not going to pitch more than 3 outs, and especially he's not going to go if it's not the ninth inning and a clean inning, he's not doing it, or a 10th inning clean inning, he's not doing it. And if he does do it, he doesn't really succeed much at all because shocker, he never does it, so he never gets to have that opportunity. Manny decides when he plays and not right. You got at the beginning of the year, Bogart's complaining about where he hits in the lineup. Same thing with Juan Soto. You got him complaining about where he hits in the lineup. You got Blake Snell, who is not going to pitch after the 6th inning ever. He'll get to the 7th, but that's it, right? Hey, I'm cooked. I'm done. Take me out of the game. I gave you 5 scoreless. I'm not going longer than that. And
today is the day you're going to go after Blake Snell's innings.
I'm going with them all, John.
Okay.
I'm saying everybody.
Snell 9 consecutive outings of 6+ innings, leading the Padres.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the rules with everybody on this team are different.
Okay,
that's my gripe. Not that Blake Snell's only going not only, but going 6 innings. It's that the rules with everybody on this team, like you said, are different. They are. And that creates hey, are you pulling on the same rope I'm pulling on? Hey, are you doing the things that I would be doing? No, you aren't. And that creates friction. And there's I'm sure all these guys like each other. But when it comes down to the end of the day, you can't tell me that there's not people in that clubhouse that think, hey, why isn't Josh out there? Or hey, why isn't this happening? Or why isn't this happening? Like, I would do that, but it's not happening because this guy doesn't want to do it. Like, what? That would cause definite problems.
For me, the whole thing with everyone having different rules, I thought that's what this meant.
Why is that?
It's because the way we've handled it here.
Yeah, the way we've handled it here.
To me, it makes him think, we coddled him all year and let him decide when he pitched and not when we want him or need him to pitch. And now this is the bed that we're in because now when we want him to pitch, he's like, no. I don't want to pitch. I'll pitch when I want to pitch. I'm not going to do 4 outs. That's too much. No.
It's bad, man. And I don't really even care about the comment of him saying, like, what are we in the what is this, a postseason game? Like whatever the comment was.
Playoff race?
We're a playoff race?
Really?
That's not even what I am upset about at all. It's the fact that what was the exact quote? Because I want to get it right. It was crap. Where is it? It was him talking about like, yeah, I don't expect to do more than I'm asked. All right, here we go. Here it is, right here. Says, technically, yes, but it would take a miracle, to which he said, you guys want me to do everything. That's the part. That's the quote that I was like, okay, go home.
Well, he's talking about he's talking about the narrative of you always want me to pitch 3 times in 3 days and you always want me to go more than 3 outs. He's saying that's a media created narrative. It's not what I'm being asked by the organization to do, is my speculation. But every other closer in baseball that's a full-time closer has a 4-out save this year. Every single one of them. And every closer in baseball, the definition, I mean, a closer is going to have a rubber arm. You're going to need to pitch 4 times in 5 days, and you're going to need to pitch 3 times in a row. Here's what I would say. Losing Josh Hader, arguably the best closer of his generation, will be a clear addition by subtraction for the Padres.
Yep.
And they need to do more of it. They need to do way more addition by subtraction. Me personally, I am going to be thrilled when I see this roster next year and there's new faces and they've gotten younger and people are going to question them and the analytics are going to say, well, they're not capable of their ceiling's not 96.5 wins. They need to get younger. They need to get way more team-oriented. They need to get less me, more we. You can only do that to some extent with the players they have under contract. But losing Josh Hader is not going to be a loss, even with his 1 ERA.
No.
It's just not going to be. They're going to be fine on the other side of it. This is a classic example of that.
Yep, I 100% agree. Josh Hader is a nice closer. He's had really good numbers, but I agree with you 100%. Like, the addition by subtraction here is going to help this team. It should.
It should.
Now, what other players need to go? Like, that's an interesting question because I don't know if the players that potentially may need to go that would help the team overall would be wise or if it could actually happen. But the one player that does, that will leave and not be brought back is Josh Hader. So yeah, that's an addition by subtraction. Blake Snell, him leaving, I don't know if it's an addition by subtraction, but the money wise would have been a huge problem. Because you expect Blake Snell to be like this pitcher for the next 3+ years?
No, I don't think he'll have a 68 Bob Gibson season every single year like he's had his last 23 starts. Probably not. No, but it's a lot to do with this team never pulled on the same rope. There's a lot of me's in that clubhouse this year. There's a lot of problems with that clubhouse. There's a lot of problems with that organization. There's a lot of problems with the payroll. There's a lot of problems with, money with this franchise right now. And if you told me that AJ Preller is gone, which he needs to be fired, and you told me they're not Josh Hader, Blake Snell, you get a bunch of young infused talent in this organization. You have a new GM, new president of baseball operations, but you also have Bob Melvin returning next season. I'd feel a lot better about this team going forward. I would still have no idea or any type of clue what they would do next year, but I would feel better about it. It's past time. I mean, you've illustrated for weeks and months and years. It is past time, and it doesn't guarantee they'll be better in 2024, but there's no reason to see what you could accomplish when you've had 9 years to accomplish it and you haven't gotten to the result you're looking for. So what else could you possibly be waiting for? I mean, are you that tied up financially that you're holding on to AJ Preller because he's under contract through 2026? No. Is the answer. They didn't hold on to Eric Hosmer. They didn't. I mean, Drew Pomerantz is dead money. They've got hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in guaranteed contracts beyond 2024 and beyond. It's past time. The only reason we think that it's not going to happen is what Peter Seidler told Kevin Acee. July 1st, which is AJ's excellence, period. He's not going anywhere. And he's not going anywhere, period. So he said that July 1st, but he's a human being. He has the right to change his mind. This thing has gone so sideways. They have to go 5-0 to finish over 500. It's not going to look good on paper. No. We know there's dysfunction. I don't see the justification for just trying again. Yeah. I think change is coming. I mean, that's just my hunch. I said it last night on the wrap-up show. I really do believe it. See if that's accurate or not. But I really believe when you look at the end result here that there's only one thing you can do, and that's try with a different leader. And I'm not talking about the manager. I'm talking about the head of the front office. Yeah, the head of the front office has created a horrible culture. I know Manny doesn't really think that it matters, but top down, AJ Preller has created a really bad culture with, bringing in guys like Josh Hader who, and maybe rightfully so because of how he was treated in Milwaukee, but
to have that just be okay in this, hey, it's fine. I mean, that's BS, dude. That's bull. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Just to let him run his own type of program. Like, come on, man, that's ridiculous. And to think maybe if he actually went a little of the extra mile this year, this team wouldn't be 7-23 or whatever in one-run games. Maybe if Josh Hader gave a little more, and I know he's pitched he pitched more innings this year than he did last year, but I don't know if this cost him in free agency. It might, but I would bet you a lot that if Josh Hader this year maybe extended himself just a little bit, and instead of 7-23 in one-run games, they're 12-18 or 16 in one-run games or whatever the case may be, maybe things are different. Maybe people on the team look at Josh as like, damn, that guy's going the extra mile when we all know he probably doesn't want to, but he's doing it to help the team out. Things might have been different. I don't know. But it just goes back to, like you said, everybody in that clubhouse this year has had their own program. There's a lot of me's in that clubhouse this year. There's a lot of issues with money and payroll and not all pulling on the same rope. And when that all happens, you get this season. You get this crap season of finishing under 500 and having it be the absolute worst, most dysfunctional, disappointing season in the history of the franchise. Congratulations, guys.
I still don't know how you can go from the best record in baseball in one-run games to the worst record in baseball in one-run games, but they've managed to do it between 2022 and 2023 with a closer, by the way, that's got a sub-1 or roughly 1 ERA. All right, if you missed it in the Fusion, Bob Melvin was on Sirius XM Radio earlier today speaking about the dynamics in the clubhouse, his relationship with AJ Preller. We'll share that with you on the other side. Also this hour, we will give away tickets to see Guns N' Roses. I was thinking between Coldplay and Guns N' Roses. We'll give away Guns N' Roses tickets this hour. Be listening for your chance to win those tickets. Also, we'd love to hear from you. 844-570-1360, 70470. Start it with team. Do you think it is addition by subtraction losing Josh Hader for 2024? Is that addition by subtraction or not? 844-570-1360. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, Bob Melvin on Sirius XM Radio today talking about the clubhouse dynamic and his relationship with AJ Preller. You'll hear that next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres lost another one-run game last night to the Giants. Blake Snell, though, did pitch well, pretty much locking up the Cy Young Award for him last night. Game 2 of their 3-game series, 6:45 up in San Francisco. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Padres. The Padres' elimination number is 1. So if the Cubs or the D-backs win today, Padres are officially eliminated.
Yeah. Or if the Padres lose.
That's a very good point. Moving over to the NFL last night, the Eagles beat the Bucs to improve to 3-0 on the year. One of 3 teams remaining undefeated in the NFL, along with the Dolphins and the 49ers. Bengals picked up their first win over the Rams. And the Aztecs, they take on Air Force this Saturday, 5 p.m. kickoff on the road. We will also be on the road for our pregame show starting at 3 p.m. at Ale Smith Brewing, and this update has been sponsored by Staples.
All right, we've got Guns N' Roses tickets to give away. That's going to be October 1st coming up at Snapdragon Stadium. Visit Ticketmaster.com for tickets and info. Keep listening for a chance to win. We'll give those tickets away this hour. Scott Miller, New York Times, he will join us at 5 p.m. His thoughts on this Padres mess as we head down the stretch. All right, is it addition by subtraction? We're going to hear from Bob Melvin in a moment, Sirius XM. Is it addition by subtraction when you lose Josh Hader this offseason? 844-570-1360. Let's go to Michael on line 5. Michael, you're on with Jon and Jim.
Hey, Jon and Jim. How you guys doing?
Hey, man.
Good, man.
Hey, great, man. You guys are so awesome.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm calling about Josh Hader. You know, I watched that game last night when I was laying in bed, and that really made me mad. Blake Snell pitched his heart out, and they probably should have just kept him in. And Hader won't go in. He's a quitter. We don't need him on the team. I spent a lot of money last month in August flying out to see the Padres. I flew all the way across country to see them play because I love the Padres. And Hader is not thinking about the small guy. He's just thinking about himself.
Well said, Michael. Appreciate you calling in. Appreciate your listenership. I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, when you see comments like that publicly, it's one thing to feel that way, be like, why would I pitch in this spot? For who, for what? We're eliminated. But to say it publicly is such a slap in the face to anyone that consumes this team. Like, people have to, I mean, it's baseball. This is a 6-month journey.
Yeah.
And the thing isn't fully finished, but you're done. So everyone's sticking around watching and consuming and partaking, but you're done. There's so many other ways you could say it. You say, you know what? And he's been under the weather, and I didn't, you know what? I've been dealing with something, and I didn't think it was the spot. There's a zillion things you could say, but to be that brutally honest about it is really, I think it is kind of a slap in the face to Padres fans when you hear it like that.
There's been a lot of slaps in the face to Padres fans
there have been
this year by this team. No question about it. From the quitting comments to many calling out the fans for, hey, you better jump on the bandwagon now, or, now, because when we start effing raking later on, you're going to want to be here. Well, that never happened, Manny. To last night, I'm probably missing some things in there, but there's been a lot of times this year where this team has slapped the fan's face and been just completely disregarded of any type of, reading the room situation with what's going on. Like, complete lack of reading the room. I say it all the time. Read the freaking room. Okay. This team is incapable of reading the room. There's some times where you might hear some things like, oh yeah, that's great. I like to hear that. Right. But no actions are being shown. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of things that are said. And there's been no action with this team this year to back up any of their words that they have said. I said this a couple months ago. This team is all talk. They're all talk all year. They talked a big game, start, in spring training at FanFest, and we all bought into the hype. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I don't think they saw this coming. And in the end, they're going to be known as just this massive, massive disappointment. And frankly, kind of an embarrassment because of how big the expectations were this year to how horribly they missed out on those.
Well, it's kind of like the premise of Kevin's article. The premise of Kevin's article was Manny Machado was a part of meetings that he led and then didn't follow up on what he said in the meetings. That's what Kevin wrote.
Right.
So, I mean, he wrote that. So I got to believe it to be accurate. That's what players are saying, that Manny Machado would say one thing and then act another way. Is that the sign of a good leader?
Did you hear what Marty said the other day when Manny was talking to the media? And if you watch the video, I watched it a couple times. He kind of turns around and he's like, hey, I'm answering these tough questions from these guys.
Yeah, I watched the video.
Marty said that he was responding to Yu Darvish, who said, don't be late for the bus.
Was he being serious or was he being facetious?
I don't know. I think he was being facetious, but still, it's interesting. I found that interesting. Like, whoa, okay.
We're never going to know the true dynamic of what went on in there, other than what's been written and what's been said and the way they've played. I don't know if it's, hey, Manny's always late for a bus, or Manny says one thing and acts another way, or it's on Josh Hader, or it's on Bob Melvin, or it's on AJ Preller. And it's on all of them.
And look, these guys have no one to blame but themselves. All of these pieces that are coming out should be 100% expected. They should not feel slighted at all, because guess what? You didn't perform. When you don't perform, and when the expectations are so high going into a season and you fail this miserably, you better expect some stuff to be written about you. And if you don't, then you're living under a rock.
I mean, has it been that bad? You know what I mean? Like, if you can't deal with 2 articles, one of them in the Union Tribune and one in the Athletic, and you make $35 million a year, and they happen to question your leadership abilities, like, there's a lot worse things that people are dealing with than an article being written about their poor season. Let's hear from Bob Melvin. We can react to it as well on the other side. Bob Melvin, if you missed it, Sirius XM, some interesting comments or lack thereof. Take a listen to this.
I've talked to certain guys about things, and I think Joe, Joe's quite the leader and understands clubhouse dynamic, understands what's, being portrayed in the press and so forth, and he has a really good way of intimating it. So, yeah, look, our group gets along fine. So, there's a lot's made of that. But, when you have a tough season like this, not everybody's going to be in a great mood all the time. So, as far as, with AJ and I, look, we have some differences of opinions and we have some debates on things. And, it's healthy at times that you're trying to get to push to the right place if you have differences in opinions. So no one's really happy about how this year went, nor should you be. So we're just trying to, whether it's a week ago, whether it's 2 weeks ago, trying to play better, trying to get to a right place where we can keep ourselves in it and push to the end. And, when you have a high profile team like we do with high expectations, there's going to be a lot bantered about. So that's my take on all that.
How has your relationship with AJ evolved in these 2 years? Because it's not like you guys had links to each other. I mean, you knew similar people right through the industry, but it's not like you had worked with him with Texas or had been in the Padres organization. So how has that relationship evolved over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I didn't know him at all until, I never even met him until we came here. So, it's a little different way of doing things, right? It's a high payroll, something I was never used to. That's his place to put the team together. And we already had some high profile players here before I got here. We've added some in the interim. And that's what makes the expectation so high. So, he's been doing this for a while now and built this thing up from, when he first got here and into what the payroll is right now. So, it's watching how that transpires and then it's my job to manage the players, during the game. So that's, it's basically how it is.
Hey,
Bob,
how's your relationship?
Bob, I asked you how your relationship was.
Yeah, well, you spent a lot of money.
I never knew him.
We spent a lot of money.
We have a lot of high-priced players here.
Yeah, how's your relationship? We spend a lot.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's react to that on the other side. Plus some of your texts that are rolling in. There's some criticism of Jim Russell, believe it or not, on the text line right now, 70470. You can start your message with team. Plus our reaction to Bob Melvin and what he had to say, or really what he didn't have to say about his relationship with AJ Preller. Scott Miller will join the show coming up at 5 p.m. Also coming up next, your chance to win tickets to see Guns N' Roses. Don't go anywhere. It's Jon and Jim.
Okay. Moises, thanks for the super, buddy.
Thanks, man.
He said no one organizationally is checking Hader publicly. That's a sign of I think that's a sign of a bad organization. When you have an organization where you got people afraid to come out publicly and kind of put players in their place, that's a bad organization. Do you think this would ever happen with Andrew Friedman? Do you think this ever happened with I don't know, the Braves? Like, do you think this would happen? I mean,
Organizationally is checking Hader public. You think so? Are we saying though that Bob Melvin yesterday, when he basically beats around it, he doesn't call out Josh Hader? Should he have addressed it more bluntly? Should he have said Josh Hader has specifically made it clear he's not pitching more than 3 outs? And that's why we didn't go to him in that spot.
And look, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but I think checking somebody doesn't always have to be publicly. And maybe they are. And maybe Josh is like, F you. But I think when you have a general manager that is MIA right now, you have a manager who is just feels like it's like he's just so over it. You got the inmates running the asylum.
Yeah, maybe.
That's how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
And Bob, it's not Bob's. Bob can't go in there and throw over a table. I feel like it's not going to work.
Well, it's not going to change. Hey, listen, Josh Hader is literally hours away from free agency. I don't think now is the time that his tune is going to change.
If it didn't change earlier in the year,
and
when they actually were in it.
And what are they going to say? I'm sure he's been called out privately. What are they going to say publicly? It's a bad teammate?
Right. I don't know. Like and subscribe, guys. Like and subscribe. Become a member. And we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting a drink.
Do it. All right, what is Bob Melvin saying, or basically not saying, but alluding to when he references his relationship with AJ Preller on Sirius XM? We'll react to that next.
Thanks, Padres, Phil. He said,
Thanks, Phil.
what do you think Bomel tells the person that calls him looking for inside info after they are offered the job? Good luck.
Oh, the next manager of the Padres? Remember Bob Melvin called Buck Showalter because he wanted to know how you deal with Manny Machado before 2022? Like, he knew he was getting into something that was not Oakland. Like, you didn't have Manny Machado in Oakland. You may have had good players, and they did at times. You didn't have $300 million players there. It's a fair point. No matter who manages next year, it's not an easy job. Whether it's Bob Melvin or someone else, it's not going to be an easy job.
It won't be. Thanks for the super chat, Padre Phil. Appreciate it. And, of course, we'll get all of your super chats during the commercial breaks for our show. Be right back.
Three 360. Guns N' Roses tickets will give them away in 5 minutes, by the way. Do not go anywhere. Be listening for your chance to win Guns N' Roses tickets. 360. Speaking of all talk, any chance we'll get to hear no talk from Jim next season? I'm also a natural pessimist, but this is unbearable. It's over. We're done. The only thing better about this season being over is not having to listen to Jim complain about it. My God. 360. Would you like to react to that?
Whatever. Thanks for listening, buddy. I also do think it's kind of might be forming into a bit.
Like, from 360 or
like
from our listeners?
No, from 360.
Okay.
Like if we met this person face to face, would they, say that to me? I don't know.
Well, no. And just like if you were in AJ Preller's offense, you wouldn't be like saying the things you're saying about AJ Preller. Yeah. Because that's how life works. On social media, it's easy to say some things. Mm-hmm. On the radio, it's easy to say some things.
Well, it wouldn't change my fact that I think he should be fired.
Right. But I just don't know how you'd go about saying that in his presence. Just like, you've always stuck by, hey, if I saw Dean Spanos, I'd like punch him in the face or something.
No, I would say I would tell him to F off.
Maybe you would. Most people wouldn't, even if they put on social media, I hate Dean Spanos.
You wouldn't. You wouldn't even touch it. Wouldn't.
How many people, even if they're critical of someone, literally tell someone to F off?
Well, he's the only person I would do that to.
Okay. I mean, there's people that do it with Dean Spanos. It's true.
Yeah, no.
Like at training camps.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that with anybody else except for that man. That person. That's the only person I'd ever do that to.
Okay.
Anybody, I'm not gonna tell anybody else to F off. But I do think it's like, hey man, you're not performing. Or you've got 9 years here. Tell me why you think you should be here, because I don't.
And he'd be like, sir, this isn't a Wendy's. Like, I don't work for you.
Okay, it's fine. And I don't work for him either.
Exactly. I don't even know what we're talking about. This is what I do know, that when I hear Bob Melvin talk about his relationship with AJ Preller in that back and forth with Sirius XM, it certainly has, you asking questions. It doesn't provide a lot of answers when he literally does everything in his power to not answer the question about his relationship with AJ Preller.
You know, like the magic word you hear from, like, say you're dating somebody, or even if you're a wife, okay, or Aaron or whatever, and you go in the room and you're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And if they're like, "I'm fine," something's wrong.
Yeah, no doubt.
Something's wrong. The word "fine" is not like what it should be, viewed as, which is it's fine. No, if you say it's fine, that means there's something wrong.
I mean,
there.
it's a train wreck, actually.
There's actually a train wreck.
Right.
Like there's something there. Instead of when you hear that, like, yeah, we get along fine or whatever the case may be. I personally don't want to hear that everything's fine. Like it's fine. That to me is not an encouraging thing to hear when you say it's fine. It probably is just fine, which is okay. But to be winning team, to have a team all pull in the same direction and all fighting for one another, you need to be better than just fine.
Would you buy it though? What if they both were like, we have an amazing relationship. We've never had better relationships professionally than the one we have right now. Well, then how do you explain 70 and 80, sir?
But they aren't saying those things.
But even if they did what we say, we'd say we don't buy it, right? Because the team's under 500.
I would say then you got the wrong type of players there to compete.
Well, if you heard the reaction from the host on MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM, when they're like, listen, how are we supposed to feel when the team is having a bad season? And they're like, yeah, it's a good point. Like, how are you there should be friction. There should be a lot of it based on the performance of this team. This should not be hunky-dory. There should be expectations of improvement. And here's the other thing about Bob Melvin and AJ Preller. You may have a bad relationship with your boss, but like, why would you walk away from it? Now, listen, the organization can walk away from Bob Melvin, but if you're Bob Melvin, would you really walk away from the relationship because you have a bad relationship with your employer or your boss? If you're making real money, walk away.
$4 million next year.
Why are you walking away?
The only way I see him walking away is that he just can't deal with it anymore. Or is him walking away is like hey, we're going to fire you, but we don't want to say we're firing you.
So can we mutually part ways and we'll still pay you?
Right. That could be another way there.
See that.
And that could still be Bob not wanting to leave.
Yeah.
Right. But they are going to fire you. And so to make it so you get your money next year and it's not a straight up firing, then we want to have this mutual parting of ways. I can absolutely see that happening. I don't think what I can't see happening is maybe like Preller wants Bob to return and Bob's like, nah, I'm good. Even though I do think there are times when Bob is sitting there thinking to himself, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think ultimately Bob would want to return. I think, the only way that he goes is if it's a mutual way. I don't think they're going to straight up say that he's fired.
Yeah, it's so tough though. It's like Dennis writes literally 24 hours ago.
It's why
it's hard to imagine he returns. And then other times you hear someone say, well, he's not going to walk away. And then others say, well, they do want to get rid of him. And then Peter Seiler doesn't. I mean, we're going to know everything hopefully in 6 days. And it better not be strung out. There's no reason to string this out. You've been able to think about this for months.
And other teams in baseball have already made decisions. I think
sure, Mets, White Sox,
Giants recently.
In terms of this manager will return, this general manager will return.
Nationals,
Mike Rizzo,
So why do we have to wait on it? Are we waiting until you guys get officially eliminated? So this stupid false hope that you are portraying is like completely gone.
Does it have to do with Peter's health? And that's a legitimate reason or excuse. Could it take longer because the owner of the team is not in good health right now? There was a statement from the Padres earlier this month related to that.
So it's going to be the number one question the second the season ends on Sunday, which I don't know about you, John, but I probably won't watch that game. Like
If Blake still doesn't pitch, I'm not watching.
I am not going to watch that game, even if Blake still does.
What if he pitches what if he's got a no-hitter?
Well, he won't
finish it off, so you're still not going to watch.
No, because Blake is not going to finish off.
You probably watch the Niners over the meaningless Padres. All right, call right now. Caller 7, you've got 2 free tickets to Guns N' Roses October 1st, less than a week away at Snapdragon Stadium. 844-578-1360. 2 free tickets to Guns N' Roses at Snapdragon Stadium October 1st. 844-570-1360. Callers 7 are yours. Ticketmaster.com for tickets and info. Keep listening for your chance to win. Next hour, we'll give away a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week. San Diego State's men's soccer coach Ryan Hopkins will join us at 4:30. They are undefeated to start the year. Scott Miller from the New York Times will join us coming up at 5 p.m. His thoughts on the Padres' disastrous 2023 season. Much more to get to as well. We'll give away Coldplay tickets as well between now and 6 o'clock. But hour 2 of Jon and Jim, including the wrap, next. Stay with us.
All right, this update's brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres, Giants, game 2 of the 3-game series tonight up in San Francisco, 6:45. First pitch, Seth Lugo on the mound for the Padres. Their elimination number is at 1, so if they lose tonight, they're officially eliminated. Or if the Cubs or D-backs win their games, they are eliminated as well. NFL last night, Eagles remain undefeated as they beat the Buccaneers to improve to 3-0 on the year, with 2 other teams, in the league, with the Dolphins and the Niners. The Bengals picked up their first win of the year, beating the LA Rams. And the Aztecs, they take on Air Force. In Air Force this Saturday, 5 p.m. kickoff. Our pregame coverage starts at 3 p.m. We'll be at AleSmith Brewing, so come on down and say hi to us. Of course, you can listen to the game and our pregame coverage right here on San Diego Sports 760. This update's been brought to you by Staples.
San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It is hour 2 of Jon and Jim. In 1 hour, Scott Miller, New York Times contributor, will join the show. His thoughts on the Padres 2023 mess. What happens next? San Diego State's head soccer coach of the men's program, Ryan Hopkins. The team is undefeated. They start Pac-12 play this weekend. He'll swing by for a few minutes at 4:30. We have Coldplay tickets to give away. We have a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week to give away. And we'll do that this hour. There's been a ton of reaction on the text line to Josh Hader, to the relationship between Bob Melvin and AJ Preller. The thing is, to some extent, everything we've said over the last 2 months, like, are we going to say it throughout October, November, December? Like, at some point, something's going to change. Season's going to end. Players are going to become free agents. Managers may return or not. General managers may return or not. And maybe the narrative's going to change. And we're waiting. We're just waiting now. We're just like looking at our watch, like, is the season over? When's this going to end? When's this going to change? Is it going to happen?
Well, tonight's lineup is definitely a sign of, yeah, we're done. Now, it has been recently as well, but the lineup tonight, you're like, okay. Yeah.
Give me the lineup tonight.
All right, hold on. Let's see here. All right, here's the lineup. Game 2 with Seth and the squad in San Francisco.
Is that what the tweet says?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, something. That's not the Padres that just fall off a cliff this year.
Mm-hmm. Game peace sign, or like, yeah. Peace sign emoji.
You got Xander, Kim, Soto's your DH tonight. Tatis is in right. Garrett Cooper, Jerkson Profar, Matthew Batten, Jose Azocar, Brett Sullivan.
Padres are favored in this game, by the way. They're minus 130 tonight in San Francisco. That tells you all you need to know about the Giants. So no Machado.
No.
We're still waiting, I guess, on this surgery.
I guess.
Even though we're playing every other day.
Just waiting on the surgery.
Just keep putting this thing off another few days.
Yep. Who cares? Just put it into next year.
Or has he had the surgery? I mean, does anyone know?
Did he go today?
Manny
runs on his own schedule anyway. So if he's gonna get the surgery, he's just gonna go do it.
They're going to do it in the locker room.
Right. Hey, can we do the surgery right now?
They've somehow been able to kind of win with this lineup.
I know. I'd much rather see Eggy Rosario like in there. And I know Campisano has gotten beat up a little bit, but I don't know.
Who even cares?
Who cares?
To your point, I mean, after last night, even with last night, if they would have won last night, would our narrative change? Hey, here they are. Here come the Padres.
I said it. I didn't care if they won the final 15 games of the season to miss out by 2 games of the postseason. My narrative on the season will not have changed, and it has not changed. This is still a massive disappointment. It's an embarrassment. AJ Preller should be fired for this, and all of the players in that clubhouse should look themselves in the mirrors for putting up this type of season, and especially a lot of the comments that have come out of the clubhouse this year are a joke. That's how I feel. That's how I felt. Nothing at the end of the season would change anything for me at all.
All right. Again, your chance to win a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week. We'll do that this hour. Next hour, your chance to win 2 tickets to see Coldplay Thursday night at Snapdragon Stadium. Right now, let's get to this.
If we're being critical of Josh Hader, should we be critical of Blake Snell as well if he doesn't pitch in the season finale on Sunday?
What do you look at, the music?
No. You're baiting me on this one. You are you are baiting me on this question. Should we be critical of Blake Snell? Look, you already know how I feel about Blake Snell.
Yes, everyone does.
I think he has had a fantastic year. I would not sign him to a massive contract. If he's on my team for like 15 million to 20 million, that's fine. But no way am I giving him 25 a year. Just not doing it because he doesn't go deep into games. So look, I'm not going to be critical of Blake Snell if he doesn't pitch Sunday. It's like the same situation as he is in with Josh Hader. He's so close to free agency that what's the point almost? But at least Blake is coming out and saying the right things, and at least he's saying like, oh, it's about a World Series, and he made a good point last night about the talent. Like he doesn't know if he's ever going to be on another team ever again with the same amount of talent, and we've preached that. Why this year was so important because of the talent that this team had that is never going to be the same again. I just never envisioned this team ever going to $250 million payroll ever because of how badly it failed this year. So I don't care, whatever, but I don't care if Blake Snell pitches on Sunday or not. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it doesn't. He's 10th right now in the National League in innings. All right. He's over 180 innings, just the second time in his career, first time since he won the Cy Young in 2018. I think there's a difference between Josh Hader last night and Blake Snell Sunday. The difference to me is like we play to win the game. Like you're leading 1-0 in a spot where you can stave off elimination. Mm-hmm. Sunday, they'll have been eliminated, barring some crazy unforeseen circumstances. So for me, that is the difference. I understand some of the criticism around Snell's usage, but not this year. 32 starts, 180 plus innings, National League Cy Young. I think he deserves Sunday off, to be honest. Next question.
He's also said some things that it's like,
talking about his ERA. Yeah, that was bad.
And talking about why do I need to go longer than 6 innings or whatever.
Yeah.
As long as I outlast the starter. Well, actually, you didn't outlast the starter last night because Logan Webb went complete. So anyway.
Yeah, but that's true. And the Giants ended up winning, but that wasn't Blake Snell's fault.
No, but maybe if a pitcher maybe if he went out there and did pitch complete game, they would have won 1-0.
Yeah, maybe. He also would have thrown 200 pitches.
Right, because that's
next question.
Will casual football fans lose interest in Colorado if they lose again this weekend to USC?
Yeah, I do. You kind of haven't really heard much about Colorado at all this week because of their beatdown against Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that was going to come. If they lose a game, it's going to just die down. That's just how it works. And they need to build that hype back up. But one way to do that is if they beat USC. They beat USC, then you're right back on the bandwagon. ESPN does every single segment on Colorado and Deion Sanders. Every single video you see that's posted on their Instagram page is about Deion. But it all comes with the winning. And like you said, like if you win at Colorado, that's what gets you the publicity. Now I want to see what Deion builds there over the couple of years that he's there, because he's already having number one recruits there. So I think the casual fan will definitely tune out of Colorado for sure.
This will be the number one rated college football game of the season. This past week, it was Colorado-Oregon. SC adds a whole nother dimension with Los Angeles and just with the prestige and value of the brand. This should be 11 million plus viewers. What's the betting line? I'm trying to, does anyone Trojans are 24.5-point favorites. So this is going to have to be a game, though. Yeah. I mean, you can't, if SC goes up like Oregon went up and it's 28-0 after one, what's the betting line?
21.5.
Okay. Well, that's a huge number for a team on the road. Just a massive number. Same, right? They were 21-point favorites.
It's like 24 last week, I thought.
You sure?
Yeah.
Look that up. Either way, that's a huge number. They're going to have to be competitive. If Colorado
24.
wins the game.
It was 24 versus Oregon because they're on the road, and now they're back home versus USC.
It's 24?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
We talked about it last
massive
week.
number.
I thought it was 21. Anyway, it's going to be a huge rating. I think it will die down to some extent, but Colorado's ratings are going to be good all year. Deion Sanders has had this profound effect on college football. Their ratings will be good all year, whether it's highs or lows. But this idea of New Year's Six or college football playoff, that's all by the wayside.
Whatever bowl game they're in, it will be a massive rating too.
Oh, huge.
Oh, come on. All the casual fans have moved on to Travis Kelce.
True.
That is very true.
Total, by the way, in this game, the highest total in college football, I think this year, 73.5.
Score some points.
Yeah, so no defense potentially between Colorado
We'll see.
and SC. Next question.
That'll get people to watch, though. Is Saturday's game at Air Force a must-win for the Aztecs?
I think so. You can't lose 4 in a row and the first 2 games of conference play to 2 teams that you're kind of chasing here that were picked ahead of you to win the conference. Yeah, this is pretty close to a must-win game for this Aztecs team that you're going to see. You would have liked if they won the Boise game. They made mistakes. They, couldn't tackle, and they're going to have a big test on Saturday versus a team that you're going to need to tackle because they run the football like all the time.
The nation's best rushing attack is Air Force. They're 4-0. They've won 9 straight. They score 35 points per game. They've thrown 12 passes this year. In 4 games, they've attempted 12 passes this year.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Here's the thing. It's a must-win to win the Mountain West. I promise you that. The only path to getting to a Mountain West championship game, in fact, is by winning Saturday in Colorado Springs. Now, you can get to a bowl game. Won't be easy at 2-4. You got to close, obviously, 4-2 to do that or better. So, yes, to win the Mountain West, you have to win in Colorado Springs on Saturday. San Diego State is 9-1 in its last 10 games against Air Force. Did lose last year, though, 13-3 at Snapdragon Stadium. Final question.
Does it matter to you guys if the Padres finish over 500?
No, I don't care. This team is already a failure. I don't care if they were 83-79, failure. 82-80, failure. 84-78, missing the postseason, failure. The record does not change that. And it's going to look even worse on AJ Preller's resume when at the end of this season, you notch up another losing record on his resume. 7 of 9 years where his team has finished with a losing record.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks worse for Preller. Just adding that official notch to the tab. But to me, it didn't matter. If they missed the postseason, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter. I don't think they'll go 5-0 in their final 5 games with this lineup and without Blake Snell.
Yeah.
Without Josh Hader potentially as well and others. It doesn't matter 82-80 or 88-82. It'll probably be somewhere in there. 80 wins, 79 wins, 81 wins, whatever it's going to be. It's not going to save the franchise from doing like an inward look, like Eric Rubner talked about maybe last week, and saying like, we need to do a real assessment here. We need to be critical of what's gone wrong, and we need to figure out a way to get this right. This isn't going to work. You can't spend like this and not win. Yankees aren't winning. Well, they can spend like this. They're in New York. The TV money is going to be flooding in. Mets, they're spending like crazy. I mean, they're spending $400 million on their payroll. That's a whole different concern probably for Steve Cohen. But the San Diego Padres to spend like this and not win is not sustainable. Even to spend like this and win may not be sustainable. There's no sustainability to spending like this and ending up with 80 wins.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens, man, because there are so many questions, dude. There's so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you told me this time last year, hey, by the way, next season is going to be a train wreck, and the team will actually have better players on it, I'd be like, get out.
Yeah, like
here.
how?
Like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You can't have this type of season with no consequences. That's what happened in 2021. The consequence was them firing Jace Tingler. Was it enough in my mind? I mean, they got Bob Melvin, so it was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. And this is Preller's last opportunity. If they went out in 2021 and hired a first-time manager, I think everyone would have lost their minds. I think everyone would have been like, another first-time manager after this one with Jay Stingler failed miserably.
Yeah.
And he went out, and to his credit, they ended up getting one of the most respected guys out there, Bob Melvin. And that was the sentiment was, if this fails, everybody goes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes. And here we are 2 years later, and it's failed. So now they got to go.
I mean, AJ kind of did this to himself. I mean, what was he honestly thinking? Like going back to the Jace Tingler era, like you're coming off a first-time manager in Andy Green.
Mm-hmm.
You've spent all this money. You've invested. You've got Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and your hire is Jace Tingler to manage Manny Machado. Like that was good. Everything we know about Manny Machado, and the selection was Jace Tingler, someone no one had ever heard of. The second consecutive first-time manager, like that was your like mulligan. You missed there. How can you keep missing?
Imagine if the Padres in 2021
82 and 80
or 83 and 79 or whatever the case may be, and they just missed out.
Yeah,
and there would have been upset, but there wouldn't have. I mean, I don't know how much upset there would be to actually having to fire Jay Stingler. What I'm trying to say is, like, we know AJ didn't really want to fire Jay Stingler. It was kind of this pressure that was put on. Like, you gotta make some type of move here.
Yeah.
And for that, all of a sudden, Bob Melvin just fell in his lap. You think that he would have hired Bob Melvin if he didn't have to fire Jay Stingler?
No. Do I think he would have forced Tingler out for Melvin?
Like if the offseason started and they decided, all right, we're
going to stick with Tingler.
We'll stick with Tingler.
And then Melvin became available?
And then Melvin became available. You think Tingler would have been like, okay, reverse course, Melvin.
No, but that's what good organization should do. Maybe the Chicago Cubs.
That's my point. Is the Cubs? That's where I was going.
Yeah.
The Cubs with a Renteria
to Madden.
Renteria, they had a fine year, I think, whenever he was the manager.
Yeah.
And then Joe Madden became available and
like, upgrade,
reverse course, upgrade. I don't think Preller would have done that.
Neither do I.
And so that tells me, like, Preller just doesn't have a pulse on how to fix things and make things right. He got gifted Bob Melvin, and he screwed that up.
Dude, the only reason when you hear Bob Melvin was Sirius XM earlier today, and Melvin's like, I'd never met the man in my life, that probably worked to the Padres' advantage.
Yeah.
If they had previously worked together a decade ago, then Melvin may have been like, I'm not coming. I go back to my time with the Texas Rangers, and it didn't work well in this hypothetical. The fact that Bob Melvin had no recollection or experience with AJ Preller was this huge win for the Padres organization that they would never get under any normal circumstance, which goes back to this point. If you get rid of Melvin, who's coming? Preller's reputation is so poor as a micromanager and his inability to get along with his coaching staffs that who are you going to hire? Andy Green again?
There's a reason why, like, Boch was like, yeah, hell no. I ain't touching that. Because Boch has people still in this organization.
Yeah, they're like, oh, no, you're not going to want to do that.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, you kidding me? No way. Like, no chance.
Right.
And now Boch, I mean, to his credit, I think the Rangers have won 6 in a row.
Yeah, they've turned it around.
And they're such a, like, win 8 in a row, lose 5 in a row. But hey, they're going to, I think, win the AL West. I think
they're right there, maybe a game or two up. In playoff positioning, definitely. They're 2.5 games up.
Wow.
It's not over, but
they've
they're
won
2.5
6
games
in a
up.
row. Seattle's lost 4 in a row.
Houston's fallen off.
So you're right. Bob Melvin, they played to the Padres' advantage that they never met before, because if they did,
huge win.
If they did, I don't think Bob Melvin would have wanted to come here originally. That was the main question going into this relationship, was how are they going to work together? And
it's been fine.
You don't, it's fine. I love on that text line, someone's like, Jim is fine. We know how it's worked out. Bob, you're putting up a very professional, brave face right now.
Yeah, I think Bob Melvin has said the right things. He's answered the questions professionally.
Yeah.
And I think, he probably would do it again in 2024. Maybe if situations were a bit different. Will he have that choice? I don't know. Here's the other thing. If you get rid of Preller, do you keep Melvin? If you're the new GM, I don't see why you wouldn't.
I would.
To everyone's point, he's highly respected. Why would you want to make the change?
Yeah. I think if they do fire Preller, which they need to, I think they need to find a general manager and president of baseball operations that would fit well with Bob Melvin.
Well, it's like when they hired Ruben Niebla before Melvin, like, we're going to handle this part.
Yeah.
And it's like you tell the GM, here's the deal. The one thing you got to do, we got Melvin under contract. We want to keep him. So if you come in, that's your manager for at least 1 year.
Right.
Cool with it?
Yeah. Like, can you guys work
And if
together?
you're not, then I'll go to the next candidate.
Right. Maybe find somebody with, I don't know. But at the same time, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to find someone better than Bob Melvin, I think. So whatever GM would come in here, or whatever president of baseball operations would come in here, yes, in the end, I think they might want their guy. But Bob Melvin's a pretty good guy to have.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're not starting with Jace Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting with the guy that's been in the postseason a lot, has managed for his career.
Yeah.
20 plus seasons.
And it happened in San Francisco. And San Francisco's right now losing their mind because when Farhan came in there, they had Boch. And they worked for a year. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, this ain't going to work. And they didn't fire Boch. They couldn't.
Parted ways.
They parted ways. He retired for a year. And it's interesting that he's now managing again. He's letting you know about that situation.
But that could be the same thing with Bob Melvin, to be honest. It's a possibility.
It could. But the thing in San Francisco is they weren't looking to try to win a World Series at that time. The Padres are in the midst of, like, you got to win a World Series with the payroll you have and the players you have. So it's a little different there. The pressure's on. And if you thought these players, if talking to the players here, if you guys thought that the pressure was on you guys this year, wait until next year.
It's only going to ratchet up.
Because after this type of season, pressure doesn't go away. It gets more, it intensifies. It becomes the pressure to win, it's louder and louder and louder until you actually do it.
Dude, if you can't deal with these expectations, then you're in the wrong line of work. They should be fine with these expectations. So people expect you to be good. That's what you should want.
Oh, Jon and Jim.
Yeah.
All they do is expect us to win. Isn't that stupid?
I find it really interesting. What were the expectations for San Diego State basketball heading into the year? To be really good, and they were great. 20 straight years they're supposed to be good. They're good. Like, they equal or exceed the expectations. But these professionals of the Padres, too many expectations levied by the media. That's why we do that.
Who do you expect me to pitch all the time?
Right, exactly. Ryan Hopkins, head coach, San Diego State men's soccer. They're undefeated, top 20 in the nation, number 6 in the RPI. They open Pac-12 play this week. We'll catch up with Ryan Hopkins on the other side, plus give away a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week. Also, we're giving away Coldplay tickets still to come. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, Ryan Hopkins is the fourth-year head coach of San Diego State's men's soccer program. They are number 6 in the RPI. They open Pac-12 play this week. They have not lost this year. He'll join us next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres, they lost last night to the Giants, bringing down their magic number for elimination to 1 game tonight. Game 2 of their 3-game series versus the Giants. 6:45 first pitch. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Padres. Of course, the Padres lose, they're eliminated. The Cubs win, they're eliminated. Or if the D-backs win, they are eliminated. Moving over to the NFL last night, Eagles improved to 3-0 with their win over the Buccaneers, joining the Dolphins and 49ers as the only undefeated teams remaining in the NFL. Bengals picked up their first win over the LA Rams. Moving over to the Aztecs, they take on Air Force, undefeated Air Force, this Saturday in Air Force, 5 p.m. kickoff. Our pregame coverage starts at 3 p.m. We'll be broadcasting live from AleSmith Brewing right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, great giveaway still ahead. We've got Coldplay tickets, Snapdragon Stadium Thursday night. We've got a $50 gift card to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week to give away. Scott Miller, New York Times, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. But right now, it is great to catch up with San Diego State's men's soccer head coach, Ryan Hopkins, in his 4th season. He's done an amazing job. This team right now, San Diego State men's soccer, 6-0-1. Listen to this, Jim. They have not conceded a goal all year.
Is that good?
It's very good. They'll open up Pac-12 play Thursday. They'll do so on the sports deck against Cal, 7:30 Thursday night. Tickets are free if you'd like to support. And Ryan Hopkins with us right now on Jon and Jim. Coach, congratulations on the start. Thanks for joining us. And how have you been able to do this through the non-conference?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I always know it's a good season when I get on Jon and Jim. So appreciate you guys. That's my measuring stick. So appreciate you guys having me on. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really interesting start. We had a good amount of turnover. A lot of guys turning professional last year. 6 professional players last year. So a lot of new faces into the team this year. But really, this core of that number one recruiting class that we had last year. I think we have 6 starters from that group in the starting lineup right now. And, I've been with us about a year and a half now. And they've really, been the core. And then we've added some great grad transfers, from all over the country and a transfer. And then just developed guys over 2 or 3 years here that are playing really, really key roles from, kind of my first recruiting class. So it's really just been a melting, of all these players that we've had for a decent amount of time. And then, like I said, adding in those, those newcomers have been fantastic.
You mentioned the recruiting class. For you, Coach, what is it that you think makes playing here at San Diego State so appealing, and the type of message that you think players are attracted to, that they want to come here to play?
Yeah, I think for me, with the players that we recruit, they all want to win, and they want to have access to the NCAA tournament. They want to get a fantastic education, and they want to have an ability, to possibly move on to the next level. And I think we try and provide all 3 of those. I think our education, I think we were ranked like 14th in Forbes magazine as public university. We have an unbelievable life skills program called Aztecs Going Pro, where we're really developing them for life after college, not just in our sport. And I think we have unbelievable majors across the board for them to study. And, we've shown that we can push players onto the pros. And I think throughout my time here, we've shown that, we can compete at a high level and win a lot of games and get as close as possible to qualifying for the NCAA tournament. And I think that's kind of the next step for this group.
Ryan Hopkins with us right now. He's San Diego State's men's soccer coach. So Pac-12 play begins Thursday against Cal on the Sports Deck. Tickets are free. San Diego State 6-0-1, taking on California on Thursday evening. So tell us about the transition from non-conference to conference. Pac-12 traditionally has been as good as any men's soccer conference in the country. What's it going to take to have success this year in the league?
Yeah, I mean, it's really 2 different seasons is how we kind of, look at it. We had kind of our post-game or our post-season meeting today about non-conference, and, we kind of have turned the page and it's a totally new season. And, it's kind of weird because, there's been 2 games played, 2 rounds of games already. So there's teams, Stanford and Cal both only have, Stanford has 2 points. Cal has 1 point through 2 games. So they're both like desperate for points coming in here this weekend. So there's a little bit of, different things that come with that. But for us, it's just taking one game at a time. Every game is going to have its own little story and its own little peaks and valleys throughout. And we feel the non-conference has really prepared us, for that. And we're just going to continue to play to our identity and play to our strengths and see where we end up at the end of it.
And hopefully at the end of that, it's an NCAA tournament appearance. What would it mean for you and the program to make the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest step. I think that's the measuring stick, in my opinion, around here is being in that NCAA tournament and obviously shooting, and dreaming as big as possible. And, I think the 1987 team, got as close as possible to that dream. But that's what I've always said since I've, arrived here was that is my dream to get to a Final Four and win a national championship. So there's obviously steps and, ladders you have to climb, rungs on a ladder you have to climb to get there. But I think we are, trending in the right direction, over my time here.
Ryan Hopkins with us right now, San Diego State's men's soccer coach. That 87 team, coach, correct me if I'm wrong, was in a national championship game, was the runner-up, right?
Correct. Yep.
So runner-up in 1987 in men's soccer in the national championship game. Of course, you know about the basketball program was in the national championship game this past year as well. There's been so much discussion, Coach. You were asked about this earlier today, the Pac-12, so much talk in the West, obviously, about this breakup. Nobody really knows what's to come, even for programs like Oregon State and Washington State. For your program, you've been playing in the Pac-12 in men's soccer. So what is this going to mean? Obviously, it's going to be different. How do you plan for the future, not necessarily knowing what it's going to look like for you guys in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just put all my trust in JD, our athletic director and Adela. And I know they both really, really value, men's soccer, I think in our community and, in this region. I think it's very important culturally and things of that nature. So I know they're working hard to secure a future, not only for us, but for all of our amazing programs and student athletes. So really, I honestly don't worry about it too much. I think there's a lot of other dominoes that, are still unfolding outside of my control. So for me and like our players, we're just focused on right now. We're focused on California and trying to win the Pac-12. For as long as there is a Pac-12. So that's kind of really been our focus, and we'll figure kind of out the rest as it comes gets cleared up along the way.
Cal, Thursday night, 7:30 on the Sports Deck. Tickets are free. Stanford this weekend, Sunday at 3 p.m. Also on the Sports Deck. A future game coming up as well against UCSD at Snapdragon Stadium. Or no, excuse me, USD, not UCSD. Yep. University of San Diego at Snapdragon Stadium, where tickets are only $10 for the October 14th game. Parking, I believe, free. USD, October 14th. Snapdragon Stadium, lots of opportunities still to see San Diego State's men's soccer team that has not conceded a goal in 2023 and is undefeated. Coach, we wish you the very best here in Pac-12 play, and thanks for joining us today on Jon and Jim.
All right. Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
All right. That is Ryan Hopkins, again, San Diego State's men's soccer head coach. Appreciate his time here today. What we still have to get to, there's a lot. Scott Miller's going to join us from the New York Times. His thoughts on where the Padres go from here. And also, on the other side of a break, we have a $50 gift card to give away to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week. Who wants to play Trainwreck Radio Sports Trivia? If you want that $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week, call right now, 844-570-1360. Ken, 844-570-1360. We have a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar celebrating San Diego Restaurant Week. Call right now if you want it. First two callers will be our contestants. We'll play Trainwreck Radio. That's sports trivia on the other side. Great giveaway, $50 free. Call right now, 844-570-1360. Scott Miller at 5 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim.
Let's do it. Thanks, JD Gaucho. Appreciate it, man. He says, thanks for interviewing SDSU's men's soccer coach. I'm wondering where they end up after this year. The WAC, Big West, who already has UCSD. Fascinating.
Well, Jim, I know you have a lot on this subject.
What
do you think? You think it's more of a WAC lean here?
I'm going to defer to you on this one, John.
It's a really good question. We had JD Wicker on this past weekend about it. They need to find a home for women's lacrosse and also for men's soccer. There are men's soccer programs in the West that are currently in the Mountain West that they could pair with, and you could combine them, I think, with Oregon State is in this league right now. So Oregon State could be looking for a home. So you could have like Oregon State, San Diego State, a couple of other programs in the Mountain West, potentially. So I don't know if it's going to be a new league or they join an existing league. Honestly, as Ryan Hopkins just said, the Pac-12 is so darn good with all these like top 10 caliber programs that it's probably not the worst thing in the world not to play Stanford twice a year every single season, or not to play like Washington every single year twice a season. So I think they're going to be fine. They're in Southern California, San Diego. They got Snapdragon Stadium. He's recruited really well. I think it almost could work to their advantage in men's soccer to not be playing these Pac-12 opponents, but we'll know more. JD Gaucho, at some point, you would think in the next, couple of weeks, if not, a couple of months.
Thanks for the Superman. Right. Everything you said there,
Yeah.
I agree with. Thanks for the Superman. Make sure to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you after the break.
All right, Scott Miller, New York Times contributor on the Padres heading into the offseason. Trainwreck Radio next. We have Coldplay tickets to give away. Don't go anywhere. Have you mentioned Brooks Robinson's passing? He has not. It's not made the updates. Brooks Robinson passing away earlier today at the age of 86. Played 23 seasons at third base for the Orioles from 55 through 77. 16-time Gold Glove winner, World Series winner, arguably the greatest third baseman in the history of the game. Of course, Manny spent a lot of time at third in Baltimore, but there's no third baseman in the history of the Orioles as revered as Brooks Robinson. And you think about, before Cal, there was Brooks in terms of left side of the infield with Baltimore, but Brooks Robinson, 86 years of age, an absolute legend of the game, specifically in Baltimore, one of the great players ever to field third base, passing away earlier today at the age of 86. It'll be interesting to hear Manny Machado potentially comment on that at some point, whether it's before tonight's game in San Francisco or afterwards. I'm sure he will be asked about it, and I'm sure he will have kind words to say about Brooks Robinson. I would have to imagine, based on the legacy that Robinson has left in Baltimore.
Yeah, Brooks Robinson, I mean, just look at his numbers here. 18-time All-Star, 16-time Gold Glove, World Series MVP, 2-time World Series champion, MVP of the regular season. I mean, just missed out on the 3,000 hits, but, he is the type of player that you look here and you're like, yeah.
Give me that, man.
That's pretty damn good.
And again, Manny could get 3,000 hits. Absolutely. He could get 500 home runs. The one thing he wants that Brooks Robinson had is those titles. Forget the MVP for a second. Manny's been close, but to get a title, it's like the one thing Manny really needs is he's got a chance to be a Hall of Famer like Brooks Robinson, but to get that ring before you're all said and done, he still has time. But man, that ring would go a long way, and especially if it happens here in San Diego.
He was an All-Star from 1960 to 1974 every year.
That's crazy. I mean, 16-time Gold Glove Award winner. Manny Machado's got 2. I mean, 16. Nolan Arenado's got
the Gold Glove meant way more back in the day than it does now. Though. The Gold Glove now means
it doesn't mean much.
Nothing.
I agree.
But back then, it meant a lot.
I agree. All right, Scott Miller's going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. right now. Let's play.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have JB and we have Jake. JB, you called in first. So you have your choice of John or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
All right, okay. Give me John.
All right. He didn't, not exactly a ring endorsement for me. He doesn't care, but JB and John, right?
Yes, JB
All
and
right.
John.
He cared enough not to say Jim, though.
Yeah, true.
Very true.
Right,
That means, Jake, you get me, all right?
For sure.
All right. Brent, what is today's question of the day?
Hey guys, Bob Melvin is about to complete his 2nd season as Padres manager. Today's question: can you name the 9 managers that have spent parts of 3 or more seasons managing the Padres? So we're looking for the 9 managers that have managed the team for at least 3 seasons total. Don't have to be consecutive, but just total.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes
Got
sense. All right. So, Jake, you're up first. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you choose to use it.
Boch.
All right.
Boch.
Says Boch. Yeah, that's a pretty easy guess there.
Yeah.
JB, what's your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
Dick Williams.
Dick Williams. Very good.
On the list.
On the list. All right. Jake, you're back up. What's your second guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it. What do you got?
I've got one more name, and that's it. Bud Black.
Bud Black.
Bud Black.
On the list. There you go.
On the list.
JB, what's your second guess? And you do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
Jerry Coleman.
Jerry Coleman.
3 seasons?
That's the
I
guess.
thought it was less than that. No, he left the broadcast booth for a year, I thought, as the story goes.
Ooh, okay.
He only did 1 year.
Yep.
Jake, this is to win it. You have a lifeline. I have an easy layup for you to win this thing if you want to use it. What do you got?
I need it. I'll take the lifeline.
All right, Andy Green.
Oh.
Do you take it?
Wasn't even good. Oh, yeah, for sure. Sorry.
Andy Green
Boom.
for the win.
Boom.
Wow, unbelievable. Who would have ever thought
They
the
didn't
winning
have
answer?
to be good, though.
The winning answer was Andy Green. I would have said Jack McKeon. I would not have said Andy Green. I'd forgotten.
You really?
Yes, completely forgotten.
Forget.
Completely.
It's not forgotten on
So
me.
Jack McKeon.
Jack McKeon would have been also my other answer if someone said Andy Green before that.
Who else is on this list?
All right, Boch is number 1, then Bud Black, Preston Gomez
Yeah.
is 3rd, Andy Green is 4th, John McNamara
Okay.
was 5, Dick Williams was 6, and then McKeon was 7.
Larry
Greg-
Boa?
No. No, he only had
2 years? Yeah.
Greg Riddick and then Jim Riggleman.
Ah, Greg Riddick. No doubt. All right. Congratulations to Jake, right? Jake, you have won a $50 gift card to Dobson's Bar to celebrate San Diego Restaurant Week. It's going on now through October 1st with over 100 of San Diego's finest dining establishments, a diverse range of cuisines from farm to table to international flavors, multi-course menus starting at $20. Visit San Diego SanDiegoRestaurantWeek.com. That is San Diego SanDiegoRestaurantWeek.com. Interesting list of all-time Padres managers of 3+ seasons.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been an interesting run
You think?
since joining the National League. It really has. Like you look at, I was looking earlier today at like some of the all-time leaders, wins, for example, 100. Home runs, not a lot. What's the total? Who's got it? It's
165 by
Nate Colbert.
Nate Colbert, I believe. It might be. I don't know. I don't know if that's
Under
the exact
200.
number. It's under 200.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you've been around for over a half century.
Like
Now,
Derek Stat.
soon it's going to be like, I would like to believe that soon it's going to be the Machados and the Tatises and the Musgroves and the Darvishes potentially at the top of these leaderboards. Doesn't that seem like inevitable? It better be Manny Machado at one point with the most home runs in the history of the franchise. It better be Fernando Tatis Jr. It better be Joe Musgrove. Like you'd like to think that if this team is going to be winning World Series or vying for postseasons or contending throughout the course of the 2020s, wasn't it Peter Seidler that said the 2020s will be the decade of the Padres?
Yeah.
Right? Heading into 2020?
Yeah. It's the decade of the Padres, but for completely different reasons.
They've been interesting.
They've been the most interesting team. If the caveat was the next decade, it will be the decade of the Padres, ... because of how dysfunctional and interesting will be, then I would have said, damn right. You're absolutely right about that.
I think they have been the most fascinating team in baseball the last 4 years with trade deadlines, off seasons, free agent signings, disappointments, crashes and burns.
Yeah.
They've been right there in terms of interesting,
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's what they're going for.
Hey, if you're going to suck, at least be interesting doing it.
Right. And they've been able to do that here in 2023.
Hey, don't be boring. Don't be boring.
On the other side, we're going to give away a pair of tickets to Coldplay in the 5 o'clock hour. That's Thursday night at Snapdragon Stadium. Do not go anywhere. Scott Miller, contributor for the New York Times. He spent a lot of his career covering the San Diego Padres. Where do the Padres go from here following the disappointment of the 2023 season? Scott Miller will join us on the other side at 5 p.m. in about 5 minutes. Scott Miller, New York Times, kicks off hour 3 of Jon and Jim. That's next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres just finishing out the schedule now. Their magic number to be eliminated is down to 1. If they lose tonight, they're eliminated. The Cubs win against the Braves, eliminated. If the D-backs beat the Yankees today, eliminated. 6:45 first pitch. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Padres tonight. Moving over to NFL last night, the Eagles remain undefeated as they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're 3-0, along with the two other undefeated teams in the NFL, the Dolphins and the 49ers. And the Aztecs, they take on Air Force this weekend on the road, 5 p.m. kickoff. Our pregame coverage starts at 3 p.m. at AleSmith Brewing Company right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's the final hour of Jon and Jim. In this hour, we'll give away Coldplay tickets for Thursday night at Snapdragon Stadium. Ticketmaster.com for tickets and info. Be listening for your chance to win those tickets. Also, great right now to catch up with Scott Miller. He's been so good to the show. Great voice on the Padres and baseball. Longtime contributor with the New York Times. You can catch him as well on Sirius XM, MLB Network Radio, and back with us here, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So, Scott, I mean, where do they go from here? This season ends in less than a week. What changes do you think are necessary coming off a season like the one in which the Padres have just had?
It will.
Loaded question.
Yeah. You guys, that's either a I don't even know. I was going to say a first pitch meatball down the middle or a deceptive something. But
it was a cutter.
Cutter. Okay.
Yeah, on the
I
hands.
didn't identify it. There's going to be all kinds of opinions on what's going on. From where I sit. Obviously there's not one reason why this season crashed and burned. There's a bunch of them. Clubhouse, big guys not playing up to their specs, up to their expected stats, an uneven roster, holes in the roster, pieces that don't fit. Clearly something's lacking in the clubhouse. All of the above. Then you go into 0-12 in extra innings. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's crazy. It seems like you'd run into at least one win in extra innings. The lack of hitting in late innings, that speaks to many things, but one of which I think is too many guys trying to be the hero in the late innings instead of playing good team baseball, moving guys over. The batting average with runners in scoring position has been horrific all year, most of the year worse than baseball. That speaks to guys trying to be the hero with each of their plate appearances versus doing something else. So all of these things fit in. Now, changes, I don't think Bob Melvin, after leading them to the National League Championship Series last year, and after earning his 1,500th win as a manager earlier this year, I don't think he just got stupid overnight. I think this is a really difficult club to manage. Manny Machado is a great player, but he's a little different, let's say, in the clubhouse, and he's got a different personality. I don't think leadership comes naturally to him. So from all of that perspective, you need a veteran manager in the clubhouse, and I still don't think you're going to find one better than Bob Melvin even after this year. You can talk baseball operations. I mean, certainly the common denominator since 2014 over many more disappointing seasons and disappointments than successes is AJ Preller and his baseball operations team. I would say probably you're going to see change. I don't know that they're going to change him. His contract goes through 2026, but certainly I think you'll see some changes to the baseball operations staff, and all of those are a lot of thoughts, and I'm going to just stop right there and let you guys have the mic again.
No, trust me, we're on the same page, Scott. But with a season like this, there's blame to go around to everybody. Yep. This is not just a singular person to put all of the blame on. It's the entire organization gets blamed for this season. But for you, kind of sounds like I know we might go with this, but who's at the front of this line for you as far as like, hey, it starts here and then it trickles down from that person on?
I'll answer that by saying this. In terms of who's to blame, understanding everything I just said and understanding the easy thing to do right now, and I know what fans want, is one person to blame and let's run this guy out of town, and the posse's going to be after this one guy's that doesn't work. Okay, so understanding that, I'm not going to put all of the blame. I think the players and Machado, Juan Soto has been a bust. I know his numbers came out good. I would trade that guy in a heartbeat. But all of that said, again, that's just to say there's blame to go around. But I think you have to start at the very top. I mean, AJ Preller spent a lot of money on this team, and it's not just about writing checks and collecting talent. I don't think anybody would argue with his acumen for reading talent, and since he's been in San Diego, and Peter Seidler and before Ron Fowler, until he stepped aside, gave AJ money, and he's certainly been successful at spending the money, and he no doubt has an eye for talent, and he with deep pocketed team, he's had the ability to acquire talent. But it's almost like, is it too much of a good thing? Is a blank checkbook too much of a temptation for the baseball operations staff in San Diego? Because it's not just about writing checks and bringing Manny Machado to town on a 10-year deal and Xander Bogaerts on a 10-year deal, and that it's about constructing a roster. I mean, you go back to the early part of this season, Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter together until they released Cruz. I know one bat's right-handed, one bat's left-handed. Fine. But it didn't make sense. They were the same guy, other than the fact that they hit differently. I mean, they're both older. They're not everyday players. They're not going to be in the field. They limit. You have a left-hander on the bench to pinch hit if you're the manager, but that's just an example of, Nelson Cruz got released. Rougned Odor came through. He got released. It's just bring guys in, see if they work. If not, move them along. Bring somebody else in. And there's just no continuity to the roster. And I think that's a huge problem. And I think another issue, obviously, and I'm not going to knock, completely the baseball operations staff for trading minor leaguers, because certainly I felt at times, hey, it's time to win, and part of the reason you have good minor leaguers is trade chips, and so I'm not going to sit here and condemn the fact that they've made some trades with some key minor leaguers, but at the same time, there's got to be some development program, and I don't know why, and this franchise just does not develop minor leaguers. You don't see, name me one or two minor leaguers that have come up through the system, drafted and developed. Developed is the key word. And then they've come up and been productive major leaguers. You just can't find anybody here. And that's a huge issue. I mean, even in Los Angeles, the Dodgers, who do everything right and are way smarter than most teams, including the Padres. They've had their share of rookies of the year, right? I mean, Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager. I mean, they brought up studs, but beyond that, look at this year. James Outman is a really good, productive player in the outfield. He's not a superstar. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but he's a productive guy that helps a championship team that they developed in their minor league system. I mean, the Padres, in terms of bringing guys up and developing, I don't know where the development is in the minor leagues. Forget Rookies of the Year like Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger. The Padres don't even have a James Outman they develop in their own system, or a Bobby Miller or Walker Buehler, by the way, who also were developed in the Dodgers system.
It's a fair point, Scott. I mean, there's no question about it. You look at it now, you're like, can this thing even be fixed for 2024? Scott Miller, New York Times, with us right now on Jon and Jim. But I want to go back to what you said about Juan Soto. So would you trade him because the expectation is they can't re-sign him after 2024, or because he isn't the piece that they need to potentially vie, or they need more than Juan Soto in 2024, so they should sell him off for a return?
I'm going to check box number C or box letter C.
Okay.
All of the above.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign him, even though they said they want to. But beyond that, I have never seen an alleged superstar marquee player like Juan Soto. I've never seen somebody that's supposed to be all that so desperate for a walk every time he goes to the plate. I get it. Walks tie into your on base percentage. The more times you're on base, the better. But I'll tell you this. He may lead the league in walks, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I know they'll back me up. The number of runs he's scored this year, and the game's all about scoring runs. You either need to knock them in with RBIs or score them. The number of runs he's scored, measured by the times that he's been on base, is pretty disappointing. And part of that, you need other guys to drive you in, but it's not like after all these walks to drive up his on-base percentage, it's not like he's a threat on the bases and he's going to steal second or steal third or advance himself into scoring position. I mean, he essentially can clog up the bases with a walk because he doesn't do anything after that. And somebody with his talent, he should be driving the ball way more than he does and knock in more runs than he does. And he doesn't. And I'll tell you what, 2 stats on Juan Soto. One, when he hit a grand slam a couple weeks ago, and I know you guys will remember that, and the stat, hey, that's his first career grand slam. That surprised me, but okay, fine. Congratulations. But wow, I would have thought Juan Soto would have had more than one career grand slam. But then that paled in comparison to the stat that happened about a week ago when he drove home the winning run. And then the stat, Juan Soto has one walk-off hit in his career, and he's up at about 775 career games. I couldn't believe that. Are you kidding me? Somebody of his stature, he's had one walk-off hit in his entire career. Now, I'm sure he's got some walk-off walks, and okay, great, that won a game or two. I don't even know how many walk-off walks he has. And maybe he doesn't have any. I'm guessing he has a few. But one walk-off hit? No. Juan Soto is not the player a lot of people think he is. I think he's overrated, and I would trade him. I don't think he fits here. I think the Padres would be way better off to get a package of players for him. And I really don't think he fits for $500 million or whatever ridiculous amount of money he's asking for.
Tell us how you really feel, Scott.
You sound like Jim.
Yeah.
About everything.
But also, I do think there's a level of, even if they do think Juan Soto can help them, the payroll for next year, I don't know how it's going to work if you pay Juan Soto $30 million in arbitration. And you got 12, 13 guys all making a combined around $200 million. So that could be another, and maybe the main reason also why they potentially would have to trade Juan Soto to make sure that they have enough payroll to fill a complete roster, especially because they're going to have to go down from the $250 million they are now to whatever they have planned for next year. Scott, you know, the dysfunction word's been uttered a lot with this franchise. It's not just this year. It's 2021. It's 2019, you know, and 2023 now. The dysfunction, what do you make of that? And is that just, and it's back to Preller, is it just because of the top, and is it trickle down throughout the organization? Like, you know, the culture of this franchise is built off dysfunction from AJ Preller, or is there other reasons you think are there?
Well, I think that you start with that. I mean, you have to, again. I mean, and I don't, again, it's a really, really hard game. And it's really hard to do AJ Preller's job, and it's really hard to do Bob Melvin's job. I'm not diminishing any of that. But again, I go back to the common denominator is that AJ Preller's been here since 2014. And some of those years you ticked off, I mean, they were before Bob Melvin got here. The Andy Green managerial tenure, I mean, obviously they decided Andy wasn't the guy. He was supposed to be a good up and coming manager, but the key to me is at the time he came in, the Padres were young and rebuilding, and it was the classic, okay, bring in a manager that you know, even if he doesn't have any experience, you know, he's going to, you know, his expertise is in developing players. He's worked in the minors. Okay, fine. You know, you need to bring that team along. But then once they signed Eric Hosmer and Machado, it quickly became clear Andy Green was in over his head. And then what happens, Jace Tingler. And that's the one where I just thought they completely wasted a couple of years there. I know in the COVID shortened season in 2020, I know Jace Tingler, you know, the Padres got to the playoffs that year, and what they, you know, finished 40 and whatever they had a pretty good record, but then quickly the next year over the full season, that's when things really deteriorated. And it was obvious Jace was in over his head. And again, very nice man, but he never should have been in that position, especially on a team that featured Hosmer and Machado and some tough veterans. You've got to have a manager that's got some experience and has veteran. You know, I don't mean this even as a negative, but Manny Machado and Juan Soto, these guys are not easy players to manage. You can't have like a break-in manager like Tingler. So I don't know if Bob Melvin's going to come back or not. I know there's a lot of speculation. I think it could go either way. If they end up firing Bob Melvin and then go toward a manager that's never managed, I know, you know, one of the current coaches, Ryan Flaherty, there's been rumors he could be the next Padres manager. It'll just be inexplicable to me if you've got to have a guy that's been in that seat before and done it with this veteran of a team.
You've written, Scott Miller, New York Times. One more for you. I mean, you've written extensively about Manny Machado. You followed him over parts of his playing career. It's a simple question. I don't know if it has a simple answer. In your opinion, from your dealings with Manny Machado, do you think he's a good leader?
You're right. It's a simple question and not a simple answer. Probably the best, most simple way I could break it down for you would probably be by saying, I think Manny, personality-wise, I think he's a little bit inconsistent. He's got good days, good personality days. He's got other days where he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got other days where he's grumpy. I don't think that plays into being a good leader. I think I'm not saying he's always a bad leader. It gets it back to what I just said. On days when his personality is on its A game and he's in a good mood and everything's good, yeah, I think on those days he can be a pretty good leader. But I don't think he's got the personality type to carry it all off every day throughout 6 months. I mean, he's certainly a lead by example guy. The thing I love about Machado is, you know, he plays every day. And, you know, he's had so many years where he's played 158, 59 games. I know he's had the bad elbow this year, but he's still in. I bet a lot of other guys with that elbow would be sitting by now. So the best thing about Machado is he leads by example. And I said this a couple years ago. Tatis needed to learn that, how to keep himself ready every day. And kudos to Tatis this year, by the way, because guess what? He hasn't landed on the injured list. He's been out there every day. He's kept his body healthy. And unlike the past where, he landed on the injured list and he kept getting hurt, I think Fernando's matured this year. I think the suspension humbled him. And I think maybe by watching Manny and figuring out that's the way you need to do it. If you're of that talent, you need to stay on the field. So I think Manny's a better leader by example. As far as clubhouse leader, everything I just said, I think some days good, some days not so good. And then there's the mix. I think there's so many, him and Juan Soto, I can't give you an educated answer on whether they're great friends or not great friends. But I think I don't see a lot of mixing in the clubhouse when we're in there. And I think with those type A personalities, it's tough, man. Am I the leader? Is he the leader? Do we need a leader? Should we both back off? That's a tough mix to put together.
Sounds like an easy fix to me for 2024. I hear 106 wins next year. Scott,
I heard 108.
Appreciate it. It's going to be interesting. We'll see if we get any news on Monday related to Bob Melvin or AJ Preller. None, both. It's going to be a fascinating offseason for the Padres. Scott, we always appreciate your time and you doing it here on San Diego Sports 760.
Thank you. And the other thing, best wishes to Peter Seidler.
No doubt.
He has been sick, and that throws more Palace intrigue into the mix, right? Because nobody knows, is he making the decision? Right. Whoever. So anyway, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Scott Miller, New York Times contributor, Sirius XM. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot to dissect, digest, react to. I mean, he's written columns on Manny Machado in the New York Times.
Yeah.
Not exactly a glowing endorsement for Machado. Not that he railed on him. He said, listen, he's a leader by example, but there's good days and bad days, which we've all known and we all see and say.
See it. Yeah. We all know it. The days that he goes at the media for whatever reason is a bad Machado day. And then some days when he's like, hey, come talk to me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a good Machado day. So, yeah, I mean, we've only been in that clubhouse a couple times this year, the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And I remember the beginning of the year, we were in the clubhouse and Manny just kind of stood by his locker. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the universal of like, hey guys, I'm ready to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very engaging, very thoughtful. And he was just stood there and he just was like, okay, guys, come over.
Yeah, of course they hadn't lost a game yet.
Well, they haven't played.
Right. That was right. That was right at the start of the year. Wasn't that
it was right at the start of the year.
It was like a media day.
Yeah. It was like a media day.
Yeah. It was like 2 days before the start of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes the wind blows in different directions for Manny. It's not a good day some days, not a bad days, other days. But I think the Juan Soto stuff that Scott said there.
He's like, move him.
Yeah. I don't agree with Scott. I think Juan Soto, his numbers this year, I mean, numbers wise, he's had a better year numbers wise than Manny Machado had last year, and Manny Machado finished second in MVP voting.
It's like a top 5 number season in the history of the franchise.
But
probably.
But also you could then make an argument, and I wouldn't disagree with you, that a lot of the numbers would be empty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it doesn't translate to wins, the clutch moments that he's come up this year, he hasn't come through. He's come through a couple times, but more often than not, has not. So you could look at him both ways for sure. But I think the reason that they would potentially trade him is not because they think he's overrated. I think the reason why they would trade him or even consider it is because they're so screwed on money that they would have no other choice.
Well, money, and are you saying that maybe getting multiple pieces is better than just keeping Soto because we're pieces away? Like, keeping Soto for a year is not our answer. Getting younger potentially and getting payroll flexibility, maybe that does help us out in 2024. We will react to Scott Miller and give away Coldplay tickets for Thursday night next. Plus, Jim's back page with you until 6. Don't go anywhere. It's Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres, Giants, game 2 of the 3-game series tonight up in San Francisco. 6:45 first pitch there. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Padres. Their magic number to be eliminated is down to 1. If they lose, they're eliminated. The Cubs lose, if the Cubs win, which they're winning right now 4-0 over the Braves in the top of the 4th inning. Actually, now it's 5-0 on the top of the 4th inning. If the Cubs win tonight, Padres are officially eliminated. Or if the D-backs win tonight against the White Sox, Padres will be officially eliminated. NFL last night, the Eagles remain undefeated, one of 3 teams to be undefeated in the NFL, joining the Dolphins and the 49ers. Moving over to the Aztecs, they take on Air Force this Saturday in Air Force, 5 p.m. kick. 3 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. Special pregame at Ale Smith Brewing Company right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, how about this? In the next 5, 6, 7 minutes, Coldplay tickets to 1 lucky caller. Be listening. You're going to need something we say, and then we'll tell you when to call. Some point in the next 6 or 7 minutes. Manny Machado on Instagram on Brooks Robinson, the passing of an absolute Baltimore Oriole and baseball legend. This is Manny Machado on Instagram. This legend will be missed. 4 exclamation points. Thank you for always giving me the best advice and for always rooting for me. Rest easy, Brooks. Manny Machado on Brooks Robinson, the passing of the Oriole legend, which we expected he would, and he will be asked about this, obviously, even though he's not in the lineup tonight. I would think he may speak with the media today because of the passing of Brooks Robinson. I don't know if you would typically wait till after a game, but he's not in the lineup. At some point, he'll be asked about Brooks, but he made it clear on Instagram. Obviously, he was a pretty big influence in Manny Machado's career. Yeah. You need your mic on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's new. New
feature to be on the radio. You turn your microphone on.
Isn't that neat? Wow. We could share.
No, that'd be weird. I don't want.
I
Hey,
feel like you're singing a duet.
Can you hear me on this mic? And then I can.
Sound different?
Do I sound different on this mic than
No.
this mic?
I think you sound the same.
What about this one, John?
This is weird. Hello? It sounds a little different. Yeah.
Just a little different, but it's okay. Anyway, what was I
Brooks
talking about?
Robinson, Manny Machado.
When you guys did that thing with your mics, it looked like that thing when couples will like cross their arms and like drink from each other's glasses. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Unfortunately, you want to crisscross? You want to crisscross our mics right now, John?
No, I don't. Did you have a point to make? No, I don't think you did.
That came off totally wrong. Oh boy,
You're an idiot.
What was I saying?
I have no idea.
I have no clue.
All I know is this. Brooks Robinson won the 66 World Series, won the 1970 World Series, played in the 71 World Series, right? Like,
pretty good.
Very good. And I know Manny Machado wants to win the World Series, right? I mean, that's all that's really left to accomplish. Forget about this dysfunction. Forget about the elbow. He's going to get it fixed. You just got to win at a high level, and hopefully they can do that. Just win, baby.
Just win, baby.
Scott Miller, what's your big takeaway here? AJ Preller, Manny Machado is a leader. Trade Juan Soto.
I think it's the Juan Soto thing because it was very apparent. And it's driven home by Scott that he thinks Juan Soto is very overrated.
He can absolutely,
and that's his opinion.
But he might be moved. I mean, it's not that crazy to think that Juan Soto would be dealt, as crazy as it actually sounds. Like, you traded for like a future Hall of Famer, and you're going to move him at age 24.
Well, it goes back to like the main question this offseason, along with a long list of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Bob's first. I think the second question is payroll. I really do.
Okay, so Bob's future. No, I think question one is Preller secure?
Okay. Yes.
And once we get the answer to that, maybe he is. Okay, move on to Melvin.
And then move on to payroll.
Payroll, yes.
Because if you got issues with your payroll, and by all reports that's been reported by multiple outlets, not just Kevin, Dennis has reported this too, this thing is going down by a huge chunk.
I mean, how low can it go with all these salaries?
Well, that's the problem is you got 12 people on this team right now making $160 total million. And
if you add Soto, right?
And if you add Soto, it's 190 plus around 190 million for like 13 dudes.
Yep.
And I think it actually might be less than that because Lugo's probably going to opt out. That's with Lugo opting in at $7.5 million. If Lugo opts out, which I would assume he's going to do because he can get more than $7.5 million on the open market.
Yeah.
And good for him.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got 12 dudes. And it's also if Waka opts in for 16 million, which could be a scary number. You got 12 guys making almost around $200 million.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do with the rest of the roster? You just have 12 guys.
I don't know. So maybe that is a reason why they trade Juan Soto. Maybe they don't want to trade Juan Soto because, like, we agree. I think Juan Soto on your team, I would much rather have Juan Soto on your team than not. He's been the best offensive player for this team all year. He has put up some really good numbers. Some of them might be empty, but his overall season is really good. I would want Juan Soto on my team. I just would, but I don't know if that's going to be even feasible if they have to drop this payroll so much to try to build a winning roster. And if Juan Soto's on it, are they going to be able to do that because of the money constraints or not?
Who did Scott Miller suggest the Padres trade? The fifth caller with that correct answer has 2 free tickets to Coldplay. Call 844-570-1360. 2 tickets to Coldplay Thursday night, Snapdragon Stadium. Ticketmaster.com for tickets and info. 844-570-1360. Who did Scott Miller suggest the Padres trade? Caller 5. If you know that answer, you've got 2 free tickets to Coldplay. I mean, listen, I've said it repeatedly. I'm not moving Juan Soto, but here's the other point. If I do move Juan Soto, I can't tell my fan base I'm all in on 2024.
Right. You
can't sell that.
No, there's no selling.
And now they're in the business of selling, and they've been brilliant marketers under Eric Grupner. I think they deserve a lot of credit for their marketing. I think in the post-Chargers era of San Diego, the Padres have really performed extremely well from a marketing perspective. They really have. They've had the lion's share of attention. They really have. But with all that being said, how are you selling that? Well, you're trading Juan Soto, and hey, we think we're going to be better next year, and we think we're going to make a run to the World Series. I don't know if people are going to buy that. I don't know if I'm going to buy that. They trade Juan Soto, and they're going to be better in 2024. That's a tough sell.
Dude,
right?
There's a lot of tough sells with this team next year. You fire Bob Melvin, you have a new manager, massively tough sell.
Yeah.
You trade Juan Soto, massively
Really
tough sell. You come back next year with a bunch of question marks pitching wise. You don't re-sign Snell. I'm not even talk about Josh Hader anymore. By the way, I mentioned this last night.
No more Hader talk.
I am done with Josh Hader. Okay, done. Talked about it last night on the wrap-up show. Talked about it here today. I'm not talking about the guy anymore.
What if he pitches tonight or doesn't pitch in the 9th inning?
I
with
don't
the lead?
care. I don't care.
You're over him?
He is far to me, is dead to me.
What if they re-sign him?
That would be a problem.
Can you imagine?
Because I would want to talk about Josh Hader then. But for the rest of this season, I'm not talking about that guy.
That's fair.
I don't want to see him pitch another inning for this team.
Okay.
I want him to not even be shown on the television screen. That's how much I think those comments last night by Josh Hader, how ridiculous and unprofessional and just a definition of me instead of team were.
And like, just read the room and just don't say that.
Exactly. Like,
just
hey,
don't say like, why
up.
would I be pitching? Are we in a playoff race? Dude, come on.
Shut up. Stop. But what was I saying about that?
I have no idea.
A lot of tough sells for this team.
A lot of tough
what I was going
sells.
with. A lot of tough sells. A lot of tough sells. I think we can talk about this on another day. Maybe like what would be the best if the Padres did this in the offseason, that would excite the fan base the most.
That's probably change general managers. I don't think that guarantees 2024 is going to be a great year, but I think probably change general managers would answer that.
I do too. If you change general managers, and it'd also have to be changed president of baseball ops as well, like the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, good point.
And you bring back Melvin, and you don't trade Soto, and you might make a couple other signings or trades.
Yeah, there'll be signings and moves.
I do think, we'll get into more of that as the offseason goes on, but I do think that initially, just thinking about it off the top of my head, I could be wrong, but for me, that would be the best sell they have.
What gets you most excited about 2024, Padres fans? What changed? 70470. Start your message with team. We can react to some of your texts on the other side, plus Jim's back page. What would get you most excited about 2024? What changed, Padre fans? 70470. You can start your message with team. Jim's back page. Who's our winner of the Coldplay tickets? This is a great giveaway. Great prize.
Oh, I saw the I saw
Chris in Lakeside.
Chris in Lakeside. Congratulations. Enjoy the show Thursday night. I think it's Wednesday night, Thursday night. So tomorrow night and Thursday night at Snapdragon Stadium. All right, Jim's back page. That comes your way next. All right, Jim's back page on the other side. Plus, what gets you most excited for Padres baseball in 2024? That's next. 619, you guys are idiots. Okay. I don't know how changing the front office gets anybody excited or unexcited. Most people don't even know who they are. How about we fire a few secretaries to bump those summer ticket sales? Idiots. So I wrote back and said, yeah, no Padre fan knows who AJ Preller is. Right. AJ Preller is the central focus of the organization for a decade. Rockstar GM.
He's the face of the franchise.
Other than like Manny Machado,
Right.
AJ Preller is a very recognizable figure in the last decade for the team.
Yep.
So, like, no, moving on from AJ Preller is not just going to be like, oh, they moved on from AJ Preller.
That's nice.
Anyway,
let's continue to talk about the roster.
That's like a 6-month conversation.
Oh, easily.
From Preller to the new guy.
Yeah.
The differences, I mean, that's going to be a massive story if it were to happen. Massive story. Idiots. I love it.
I've already said this. Like, is firing a couple guys in your front office that aren't AJ Preller just to move some pieces around, is that going to do it for you? Because it's not going to do it for me.
Of course not. But Preller himself.
But you fire the head honcho, then now we're talking. Now we're talking about some legitimate change. We're talking about organizational change that needs to happen. The reckoning of this season has to start with the firing of AJ Preller. It just has to. Now, I don't know if they're going to do it, but it's like that. The fix is so easily in front of them. And I can't even say that because I don't even know if it would fix things, but you can't continue to keep going with this, right? You've seen what this is. And I don't know if whatever move they make would work, but what I do know is what they're doing right now is not working.
How many times have we been called idiots today? It's at least like 4. All right.
No more than usual.
Yeah, more. Yeah, true. Maybe not.
That's fine.
All right, let's get to this.
John, have you ever watched Shrek?
I don't think so. It's about like a dinosaur or something. A cartoon dinosaur? No.
Dude, you even have kids.
I do. But so what is it about? Is it not? Hold on. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Oh, please,
Shrek.
someone help me. Help me, Brent.
That's a cartoon gremlin. A cartoon character. Whatever. A green guy. What's the purpose?
An ogre. Jeez.
Okay. What about Shrek?
Anyway, in Scotland, there is a new Airbnb that is exactly like Shrek's swamp house in the Shrek movies.
Okay.
And if you want to stay in the swamp house starting Friday, October 13th, you can book and request to book a free 2-night stay for up to 3 guests in a thrilling looking like recreation of the Shrek's mossy swamp abode from October 27th to the 29th.
So what does that mean? A swamp looking house? Like,
it's like
a swamp in it?
It's in the woods and it's exactly like the movie, John.
Huh.
If you saw the movie,
I haven't seen the movie.
you
The movie's
understand.
about a dinosaur. Green dinosaur. That's how I remember it.
How do you remember it? You didn't see it.
I literally
Whatever.
I can't.
Are they still coming out with new ones?
Fortunately, they stopped.
Fortunately, okay.
All right.
They made about one too many of them.
Okay.
Moving on to Brent's favorite topic, Taylor Swift. Because she was there was a picture taken of her in the suite.
Yeah.
With somebody, and she was eating chicken nuggets or chicken fingers, excuse me.
Okay.
With ketchup and ranch. So Kansas City has now at the stadium come up with a new Taylor Swift chicken tenders and ranch on the menu.
Ooh. Smart.
So they're like selling chicken fingers with a thing of ranch and a thing of ketchup.
Isn't that kind of like
After
just selling
Taylor Swift.
chicken fingers and then having condiments?
They're using it to their
Yeah.
advantage. I know it's the same thing. They're just now rebranding it like Taylor ate it, so you should eat it.
Right. Taylor's chicken fingers.
Right. Exactly.
How much is that? Or what's the deal?
$7,000.
$7,000. Yeah. Should be.
Yeah. I didn't say exactly what the price was, but that's
Okay.
what it was right there. Okay. I was supposed to talk about this yesterday, but we didn't have the back page.
We didn't?
No, we didn't.
Oh, 515 Rams.
Yeah. And, you know,
Well, he did it, but nobody listened to it.
Taylor Swift hijacked everything Deion Sanders.
She really did.
No one talks about Deion anymore.
I know.
But I have a Deion story for you.
Oh, thank you.
A 1989 score Deion Sanders rookie card in a PSA 10 condition.
Football?
Or baseball.
It's a football card for the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, I can see that. Black helmets, black jersey.
On August 30th, the card was on eBay selling for $560.
Okay.
September 21st, guess the price of that rookie card right now.
$5,600 from $560.
Probably $1,000.
$1,300.
Okay. So over doubling
in price. And that was like that September 21st was the biggest week of ever for Deion.
Got you.
So wow. Good on whoever the person is that potentially sold that card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saw this story, but I don't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
The Office is reportedly being rebooted.
Really?
A reboot of The Office is currently in development at Peacock.
Why does it shock you? The Office was a reboot in itself.
Right, from England, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we talking about? Like, obviously new characters, but just fresh episodes on Peacock?
I think if they make something like this with a twist, it would work, but they can't just take The Office and do it and copy paste.
Yeah, can they take it from like Scranton to somewhere else?
Like in the Office universe?
Yeah.
Like Jim Halbert's exists in this universe, but it's
I
a
like
different,
that. I like that.
Like place.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. We are back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Will the Padres still be mathematically alive or not?
No.
In 21 hours, the Cubs are leading 5-0. Probably
It's
not.
over.
If you missed anything today, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. Find us on YouTube. Search for Jon and Jim 760. Find us on social media at Jon and Jim, JONANDJIM. We're back tomorrow at 3 for Brent and Jim. I'm Jon. Keep it here. It's San Diego Sports 760.
Okay.
Okay.